You know, it's very similar to a story about Elijah. Elijah, I don't have time to read the whole story tonight, but in 1 Kings 18 and 19, Elijah is a prophet from God. He comes in, he says, it's not going to rain for 3 years. He goes away for 3 years, comes back and says, God says it's going to rain. He's on this mountain with a bunch of prophets of Baal, 850 prophets. They're out there ranting and raving. He's over there sitting cool and calm. And at the end of the day, God shows up, just as Elijah says. Everything that Elijah has asked for, everything that has been done, God has done for Elijah. And 850 prophets of Baal were killed that day. And then what happened? And Jezebel, one person said to Elijah, I'm going to kill you. And all of a sudden, he comes off of this mountain of everything being God's prophet, being God's man, and he's running. And he's running deep into the desert. He takes his servant for a while and then drops his servant off and keeps going deeper, all the way till the time he comes to the mountain of God. And it's there that he finally says, God, I apparently am done. I just want to lay down and I want to die. I think God's trying to show me that in the middle of all this. Because God's response to Elijah was this. And a voice said to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? After everything that you've been through, everything that I've done for you, how I've provided for you in all of these years, what are you doing here? I really feel like God was saying to me that same thing. Why are you here? And then he told Elijah, after Elijah told him why he was there, he told Elijah, he said, go back the way that you came. Go back the way you came. So what that did for me is what I'm going to share with you. In order to go back the way I came, I had to go to the beginning. I had to go back to the very beginning of where I started. I had to go back 4 years ago. I had to go back to the place where I could see my face when my wife in 2006 was being baptized and I did not want to be on the stage. God wanted me to remember that. He wanted me to remember this picture downhill here, even though it's a picture of Bill on the front. He wanted to remember that I told my wife, you can't stay for a second service. I don't care what you tell them. There's no way we're going to stay for 2 church services. So I made her lie to the people at the church so that she wouldn't stay. He wanted me to go back and remember 3 months later, finally surrendering over, and I can see the difference in my face. He wanted me to remember that. He wanted me to remember the first guy I led to Christ, Tony Johnson, who 6 months after I baptized him, he died in an automobile accident. He wanted me to remember that as a result of that baptism, my son accepted Christ and I baptized him the very next service. God wanted me to go back and remember. He wanted me to go back and remember the fact that since we did the funeral for Tony Johnson, we got a chance to share what God had done in his life, that because of that, I had Jim Bolte and Bo and their wives accept Christ. They were friends of Tony and Ashley Johnson. He wanted me to remember. He wanted me to remember more things. That because of the change in mine and my wife's life, she led her sister to Christ. We then led her mother to Christ and eventually led her father to Christ. He wanted me to remember all the things that he had done. He wanted to remember Joe Corvo, my first little brother, and being there with him, and now he's struggling so hard in life right now. But he wanted me to remember that. He wanted me to remember all of these things, the pool where we got a chance to baptize Jason before he headed off to Iraq, when 60 guys standing around a pool had a chance to just hold hands, pray for the guy, and baptize him right there in the pool on a Saturday morning. He wanted me to remember all the things that he had done. He wants you to remember too. And this is where we're going to go. Drew, he wants you to remember that night at the encounter group when you found him the first time, for real. And the joy and all the things that have been going on in your life, and how he's blessed you, and how he's changed you and protected your son from falling 2 flights of stairs. And he's reconciled your marriage. He wants you to remember that. Ryan, he wants you to remember the crazy antics that you did up on stage at your baptism. He wants you to remember that even in spite of the fact that you're a thrill seeker and that you love crazy things, that the greatest thrill was finding him. And he wants you to remember. Aaron, he wants you to remember your wife being baptized and the incredible changes that have been going on in her life since that time. He wants you to remember. Joe, he wants you to remember all of those things that he's taught you, the incredible changes in your life, the way that you're so out there with people and talking to them about him. He doesn't want you to forget. He wants you to remember. CW. Yeah, you too. We started together 4 years ago in the encounter group. Neither one of us believers. And he wants you to remember. He wants you to go back to that day. He wants to remember the beautiful prayers that we prayed when you didn't know how to pray at all. And you felt so insecure about the way that you prayed. But God so loved your heart. Everything he wants us to remember. Tonight is a night of remembrance. He wants us to go back the way that we came. He wants us to go back and remember. So, tonight's questions. Remember and tell how God has been faithful in your past. Recall 1 or 2 things he has done for you. Focus on you, not on your family, not on friends. As you tell of his faithfulness, stop, pray at the table, and thank him. Number 2, what are steps that you can take now as a group, as a table, to help you remember these things? Photographs are great memory of the things in the past. We forget. God wants us to remember. He wants us to remember all the things that he has done for us. He wants us not to forget. So what are those things that we can do individually and as a group to help us remember everything that he's done? Okay? 1, 2, 3, go.